Hi, my name is Caitlin Davis, and I'm here today to do my reading response forum and about the article that we had to read this week about vocabulary and concept of a word, the case study that went along with that. So for this specific assignment, I want to focus on third grade. I thought it was really interesting how the text pointed out the fourth and fifth grade. I had always in the back of my head known that these reading concepts apply to fourth and fifth grade, but I'd always focused on them in the younger grades, so it was interesting to see that perspective as well. But for this, I want to focus on third grade. So the first activity that I came up was built on the foundation of the repeated reading of predictable and leveled text. I really liked this principle because it helps students not only strengthen their reading skills, but it also helps them develop the other cues they need in reading when they're not necessarily doing a cold read every single time. So for this, I would either create or use pre-made predictable leveled text for my students, and then I can add like pattern dots at the end on the pages under each word, so the student has to physically tap the dot every time they say a word. And then I also found this cute picture that really lays out a way for me to remember the different text features that these predictable texts will have. So selecting books that have the larger print, the sentence will follow the same patterns and structures. Typically I want the pictures to be located in the same spot and the words located on the same spot on both pages. And then I want the pictures to be able to really illustrate exactly what the text is saying and not necessarily have so much extra going on in the background that it can be very distracting from what the words are actually saying. So this is one reference that I thought would be good to have to be able to use to select specific books that will work really well with my students. And then again, if I use this book, I could add the dots underneath each letter and they can go back and use that. So some other activities that I came up with is that we can illustrate our own predictable textbooks. So students can have the opportunity to take the book that I either created and illustrate them and add those pictures to really begin to relate the words to the pictures. And the other is writing stories using the features of predictable text. So following the sentence pattern and doing those kind of things so students can create their own stories, and then the illustrating comes back into that where they can illustrate their own stories as well. So the second list of activities that I found was that I put together was founded in the foundation of language experience stories. This really brought me back to the idea of interactive writing that we talked about, where the teacher is going to write down the students' ideas and then the students will all read them together out loud. During this process, the teacher will be tapping each word to guide the students' reading, and then eventually they're going to incorporate that gradual release of responsibility, and the students will take over, and then the student will be the one pointing to each word. So some activities that I can do with that is the text brought up the idea of making a classroom book with the stories that we write together. I really like that idea. I think it really brings it all together, it personalizes it, and it can even be a motivating thing for students to be able to see their own work and also how has our work progressed through the year. And then the other is just adding those illustrations and including those pictures to really reinforce what the words mean and use that to help guide us when we're reading. So the last foundation that I want to use for the different activities that I've planned is the picture word matching. And I really liked how the text pointed out to start with common words that are important and then start to translate those into predictable text. I have seen these types of cards used in my classrooms, the classrooms I've been in, and I think it would be really great to incorporate different activities where the students have the cards with the picture and the word on it, and then other things where it's just individual picture, individual word, and then we match them together. So I thought that would be a really good way to start associating the pictures with the words and the text. And some other ideas that I came up with is to make a family tree with photos of family members and their names, and that can reinforce, the starting with names and important things, and then that builds that foundation to go on from there. and the other is to create our own picture cards, to come up with words and then draw the pictures and really individualize it and personalize it. So that is what I have today. Thank you.